Okay, everyone, welcome back to the Hey Ed YouTube channel. Today we are doing another podcast with my best friend in Australia, Rob Bruss. Actually, he's one of my best friends in the world. So, hey, Robbie, how you doing, buddy?
Good, mate. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. This is our first get together on camera, anyway, this year. So, now just so everyone knows out there, Rob and I last year for 2 years there, we had a podcast that some of you may know about. Some people have been asking about it, and I'm trying to talk Rob into doing the podcast again. But this guy spends like 8 hours a day at the gym, so it's hard to find any time for him. For those of you who are seeing this for the first time, just my name is Ed Anderson. I'm the host, moderator, and all around nice guy of the Hey Ed YouTube channel. And Rob Bruss is the chairman of the White T-shirt Club in Australia. So for anybody out there in Australia who wants to join the club, the dues is $100 a year, and you get the newsletter and and
And you get to listen to us rabbit on about nothing for hours at a time.
that's right. So here are the topics that I want to look. There's a lot to talk about, and Rob and I both have kind of the gift of the gab. We would talk for an awful long time, but we'll have pity on the audience here. We'll try to keep it somewhat pithy. But there are some topics I want to try to get to, and these are some of the topics that I want to cover today. I got Trump pardons the J6 hostages. Trump pardons Ross Ulbricht. Biden pardons everybody. I want to talk about I want to talk about the new crypto reserve that's in the works. I want to talk about the Ukraine war, the Hamas hostages, XRP and XCN. I want to talk about the U.S. border and mass deportations. Doge. Now, we may not get to all of these, and we might get to other topics, but those are kind of the outline of things I want to talk about today. I hope some of you can make it, and if you wouldn't mind encouraging Rob, if you want to see us in a podcast, in a live podcast forum, please in the comment section below let us know that you would like to see us do a live podcast, so you can chime in or not. So in the comment section below, please let us know whether you would like to see us start up the live podcast again. This is recorded, of course. All right, Robbie. So you heard the list. Is there anything you would like to start with? I mean, look, there's a lot. Look, there's a lot going on, man. There's so much news going on, especially with the start of the new Trump administration. It's like drinking out of a fire hose. There's so much to coming at us all at once, and it's all significant. There's not one it's insignificant piece there. So
Yeah, indeed, I would agree with that. The Zoom just froze there for a sec. I'm not sure if you actually said it. Did you say the $500 billion into the AI as well? Did you say that?
I did not mention that, but yeah,
Missed that one.
there's another one. You want to start with that one?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that really quickly because everybody thinks that we have the new America First policy. We have the populist president. We have the populist presidents and prime ministers around the world all being elected and all of these leftist fools going away, which is great. But the AI overlords, or the tech oligarchs, which seem to want to rule over us, are wanting to do that faster than ever with AI. And the rapid developments that we've seen with AI in the last couple of really weeks has been game changing. I think we're going to blast through artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence in the next 12 months. And that's something that's going to be revolutionary because in the last 48 hours, it's been said by the AI oligarchs and businesses that are out there that software engineers are going away. And if you look at software engineers, they sit in the middle management of a business. And you might be listening to this or watching this thinking, well, who cares? I'm a carpenter or I'm a plumber or I'm a builder. Like, what has any of that got to do with anything that I'm doing? Well, everything that our entire society is based on diesel fuel, trucks, and software. They're the three things that underpin our society. If there's no diesel fuel, there's no trucks. Everything that you see in your household, when you just look around the room that you're in, has been on a truck, probably several times. And without diesel fuel, fossil fuels, and drivers to do that, you're not going to have anything. You'll starve to death. That's the first thing. And then on top of all of that, in order to get those things, they have to be processed through computer systems. And luckily, all of that infrastructure already exists. But if AI is going to replace software engineers and AI is going to move to a place where those people are now redundant, we're going to see a large percentage of the white collar workforce go away. And I'm not entirely sure what those folks are going to do. When AI first came on the scene, who would have thought that it was going to replace artists at first, and graphic designers, and then musicians, and then podcasters, and then who would have? I in my wildest dreams, I never would have thought that that would have been the order of march that it would have gone in. I thought it would have been software engineers that have gone first. And the two fundamental rules of AI safety begin with that you should never give AI access to the internet, and you should never ever teach it how to code. They were the two things that people said about AI that we shouldn't do, but they were the two first 3 to 6 months. It's far faster than anything that Moore's law could have ever have predicted about microchips. But I think that that's a really scary proposition that not a lot of people understand or really know about. And there's a time and place for the American government to invest in certain things. Part of the reason that the Americans are investing so heavily into the AI infrastructure that's needed is because we need more compute power. That's what it comes down to. We need enormous amounts of energy to build the data centers, to drive the computers that are going to underpin our society with the new AI development and software. But ultimately, it's like anything. This drink bottle that I have, this heavy drink bottle that I've got on my desk, could be used to fill up with water and quench my thirst in the gym, or I could smack somebody over the head with it and use it as a weapon if I really wanted to. It's a double-edged sword. It's like a hammer. Yeah, hammer's made for driving nails in, but you could also hit somebody over the head with it. And these AI tools that they're creating are actually weapon systems. And there's a time and place for that, obviously, but I'm not entirely sure that the US government has the time and place for these weapon systems. But he who grasps artificial general and super intelligence first will win and dominate the world. Vladimir Putin said that, and nothing has been truer in the first part of 2025 here. I think that that is the biggest story of maybe the century so far of the last 25 years. And OpenAI coming out yesterday saying that we're about to release our agents. Mark Zuckerberg saying a couple of weeks ago that we're about to get rid of our mid-level software engineers. All of this is going to radically change the way that we live. And the reason it's such a radical thing is because the AI now has a self-reinforcement mechanism that enables it to write itself and now to start improving itself. And if you look at the bell curve of where artificial general intelligence happens, we're past the 50% percentile, which is in the dead center of the bell curve. And then we're now edging to the right of that graph, and we're not far away from it. And people don't realize that we've already achieved artificial super intelligence, not general intelligence, super intelligence. And when you look at that bell curve, what it is when the computer can beat a human 100% of the time, no matter what happens. And we achieved that actually quite a while ago. It was in I want to say 2015. Don't quote me there. I'd have to double check that. It was when Google DeepMind beat all the chess grandmasters and Google DeepMind beat all the Go players. That's super intelligence. No human can outmaneuver or beat those computers anymore. That is artificial super intelligence. We've already achieved it. And it's not much of a step to go past where we are now when we're giving computers PhD level mathematical problems and they're solving those problems. The thing that's limiting us is the compute power and the machine's ability to actually reproduce itself and reproduce a small part of itself to go and solve a problem, bring that problem back, and then keep breaking itself down. That's how a person solves problems, and that's how the computers are learning to solve the problems as well. So I think that that's a really, really scary proposition. That flows over into everything that you're seeing in Ukraine, everything that you've seen in Gaza and in Israel. All of that stuff is being controlled by artificial intelligence. If we ever end up in a shooting war with China, it's not going to be about numbers. It's going to be about who can react faster. Nothing is hidden on the battlefield anymore. All the space-based assets can see it. All the electronic warfare assets can hear it. And we know where everything actually is. What it's going to come down to is who can press the button faster. And it's said that the Maven system, the American Maven AI system, would be able to categorize a couple of hundred to a couple of thousand targets on the battlefield that it's looking at, that it can see. It puts it all in order and prioritizes it. But the person is still the one with their sausage finger on the button to press the button. Pretty soon, there won't be a person with a sausage finger on the button saying, go engage the target. There'll be no more people in there. It'll just be robots versus robots. There's lots of reports coming out of Ukraine in the last couple of weeks about combined arms assaults with robots, where they have these ground-based robots going to attack Russian positions. They have ISR assets that are in the sky being flown by operators, and then they have all the FPV drones that are going, and then there's mortars going in, there's artillery going in. It's a combined armed assault, not with people, but with robots. I think the Russia-Ukraine war and the Israeli-Gaza conflict that we have seen in the last couple of years, that's it. We're not going to see anymore. I think that that's the end of warfare. I'll make a big call. What we're going to move to is robots versus robots. That's where we're at. And whoever has superior robot technology, whoever manages to crack quantum computing first and overlays the quantum computing with the artificial superintelligence, that's the country that's going to dominate the world. And America investing $500 billion into that is just the beginning. So I don't know if you saw the footage, Ed. Did you see it when they were turning on 3 Mile Island again?
No, I did not see that.
Yeah, switching the nuclear reactor back on. What?
Good.
What?
Good.
What? It's kind of cool. Go look on YouTube. You'll see it. It's actually really cool.
Okay,
so I think that was Microsoft or something that was doing that. It's kind of cool.
Okay, I will look at that. Well, okay, so boy, a lot of rabbit holes here. But let me take kind of a sharp right turn here down one of those rabbit holes. Let's talk about the future of defense as related to artificial intelligence. Now we have this new Department of Government Efficiency coming up, DOGE, and when you hear some of the numbers involved in maintaining these modern defense systems, like to keep an F-16. What's the new jet? Not the F-16. What's the new one?
F-35.
F-35. Well, it costs like $30,000 an hour to put those things.
It's about $80,000 an hour.
An hour, yeah, to keep it in the air, right? So, and you have to wonder, well, is that an obsolete system? Do we need to spend $80,000 an hour on, I don't know how many jets we have. We have a lot of them in the air. Yeah. If I were the head of DOGE, I'd be looking at that program. Hey, man, are you freaking kidding me? At $80,000 an hour, we have way too many. Is it overkill? So I'm wondering, so I want your opinion.
Listen. This is the reason that the United States doesn't have free medical and free dental for all its citizens, because you're flying around 500 aircraft that all cost on average $100,000 an hour when you average it all up, and they're doing that like 20 times a day. It's ridiculous how much money is poured into these things. And the paradox is this. The paradox is we need nuclear weapons to prevent nuclear war. What? What do you mean? Well, that's a deterrence. Well, if deterrence doesn't work, we're going to use our nuclear weapons against each other. But we need nuclear weapons and it's the same thing as what you're describing here. It's just on a smaller scale, right? You say the nuclear thing and it kind of gets your attention. But the reason that you have an Air Force with 500 jets and they cost $100,000 an hour to operate, whatever, that's to prevent all of the conflicts. And it's peace through strength. Imagine spending trillions and trillions of dollars a year on your military, but never, ever having to use it. Is that a good thing? I don't know. That's the paradox that you're stuck in, right? That's what you're talking about. That would be the first thing that's got to go. But then all of a sudden, the enemy look over the horizon and go, oh, they got rid of their Air Force. Oh, their Navy's pretty shit. They pulled it all home. They closed all the bases. What the hell? All right, well, it's a free-for-all then. Is that what's going to happen?
Well, a part of me, a very big part of me, loves the idea of being the strongest military in the world. That's pretty cool. I think it probably has deterred a lot of aggression toward us because of that, fact. Now you never know that for sure because you can't prove a negative. You never know what didn't happen. But if we wanted to, this whole talk about taking over Greenland militarily, of course that's not going to happen. But if we wanted to, we freaking could.
We're gonna take back the canal, the Panama Canal.
Yeah, go for it, man.
How do you think he's gonna do that, man?
He'll make a deal. He'll make a deal that they can't.
Panama told him to piss off already, man. He's gonna drive a
Marine landing
ship there. The blokes are going to get off there and going to go, get out, CCP, get out, Panama idiots. We're in charge. He's just going to take it back. He's take it by force, man.
Well, I don't know. Well, okay, I haven't thought that one through. We'll carefully, but yeah, you would love to see it. I know because you've been doing your push-ups. You're ready. You're ready. You know, you're prepared. You're good to go. But I think that popularity is a really big deal for Trump, and I think that that's rolling a pretty big set of dice to. I don't know what the American people which is, half of our country is off the charts liberal. They are tree huggers. The idea of any kind of aggression is anathema to them. So that could be, I think, Americans, I think in their hearts, they're not real big on taking over countries. That's not what we do. That's not part of our cell structure. So
you're 100% right, because it's the leadership that thinks that you have to promote freedom all around the world. But if you ask an everyday American just like you, if you ask any person really from any country in the world, what do you think about Russia invading Ukraine? Most people go like this: what? They invaded another country? Why would they do that? Most people are against all of that. There'd be very few Russians that'd be like, oh, we've got to take back Ukraine. We've got to do that. It's the Russian leadership that are like, right. Ukraine is part of Russia. They're our Slavic brothers. They don't exist. Ukraine doesn't exist in our eyes. We're going to take it back. Bad luck. We don't want Ukraine to exist. We want that to be Russia. And that's. I don't think normal people would look at that and think, oh, well, that's a good idea.
That's a really good point, because the irony here, it is exactly the elites, the liberals, who promote war. They want the war.
That's the irony.
That's the irony, right? So it's the leftists, it's the elite crowd. They've been propping up this war. If it weren't for the elitists, the Ukraine war would have been over 2 years ago.
Well, you can actually prove that, because that's not a negative. Because when Donald Trump was the president last time, there was no wars, and right. Because he never started one, he never got us into one. He actually got us out of a bunch of them, and that's actually validation of exactly what you're saying there. When it comes to the Panama Canal, the American idiot that handed that over for $1, and he was an idiot for doing that, didn't really have an agreement in place. No. And I look at all of those agreements that historically were in place and wonder if that is actually relevant in the modern world. Because when you look to Europe and the Minsk agreements, in the Minsk agreements, we promised not to inch one forward closer to Russia, and all of the nonsense to do with not invading, not bringing Ukraine into NATO, and all of this sort of stuff. And it was all just to placate Vladimir Putin, the whole thing. And is it that when the canal was handed over to the Panamanians, they took it back over? That was all just to placate the Americans. Oh, we're going to get it back for $1. Awesome. There's your dollar. He flicks him a coin, gives him a note, whatever. And then that's all symbolic. They take it over and they're like, we don't give a shit what you say. Whatever documents you got, we're just going to do whatever we want, because this is our country. We couldn't care less. And then Trump is like, that's a really bad deal. We lost 30,000 people building that thing. We never agreed to that. Now the Chinese are running it. Now you're gouging us. Now it's not in the spirit of the deal. The idea was that we built it because we needed it, because it's critical for our military to be able to transit through there. But that's what you're doing is not in the spirit of it. And because you're not behaving in the spirit of the deal, we're going to come and take it back. Whether that's with a deal, whether that's with tariffs, or whether that's by force, we're going to take it back. That's the escalation ladder. In the end, we've got all the guns. And in the end, if you don't do what you're told, we're just going to come and take it by force. It's just bad luck. And I think that's where you're going to end up. And I'm not sure, as you say, I don't think many Americans would stomach that. And I don't think many people would stomach that. Actually, the Danes in the European Parliament told Donald Trump in no uncertain terms to fuck off. So I don't know if you saw that. This is not for sale. Let me say it.
Of course, they have to say that. That's how you enter negotiations. That's the starting, gambit. But then you find a way to make it worth their while, to make it too. Greenland, I'm sure, would love to be relevant finally. Right now they're
30
fucking,
people there.
Right. They're fucking irrelevant. And the 30 people that are there, 29 of them are Inuit Indians. They
They live in the snow in
they
minus
live in
50.
the snow, and they all live in one city on the coast. The rest of it is empty. But if they thought, man, we could be rich, every one of those Greenlanders, I don't know, they probably, it's kind of like being a Dubai citizen, right? Where most of you live off the oil revenue from they don't have to work for a living. That's why they have that country is run by Filipinos. Filipinos are, they're making
Yeah.
the beds, they're scrubbing the toilets. If you're a Dubai citizen, you don't have to work. Same thing in Greenland. I mean, look at Norway. If you're born in Norway, you're given what is it, like $250,000 at birth. That's set aside and account for you for retirement. Because of their oil revenue that they
They're
struck
wealthy.
that they hit, what was it, 1988 or so, where they found the oil. Now they're rich, and they were smart about investing. So they have their sovereign wealth fund that takes care of the cities. Well, what if Greenland could be in that position? I mean,
It's not about resources, right?
well, it's about it's about strategic location, the military.
Yeah. The reason the United States is the world's hegemonic power, and the reason that the United States has the most powerful military in the world is because you've got the most powerful navy in the world.
Mhm.
If your navy was half the size, or it went away for whatever reason, or all the ships were recalled home, there'd be chaos in the world. There'd be piracy everywhere, and then it would be a free for all. So the hawks would actually tell you. And as the ice melts in that part of the world through the natural cycles of climate, there's more shipping lanes that can go through there. And unless the US Navy can get a foothold in that part of the world, the Chinese and the Russians will be able to own that ground. But the Chinese and Russians don't have the logistics to support themselves that far north. The Americans do. And that's the reason that they want to do it. The resources, all of this stuff is just a cover. And I don't know why the Danes don't understand that, because that could be like a forward leading base for NATO, like a Navy base,
Yeah.
carriers up there, destroyers up there, all sorts of studies, oceanographic vessels that could be in that part of the world. But the whole thing is just a cover for the military. That's all it is. It's a cover to maintain the US Navy's hegemonic power in that part of the world, because that's a place that is very, very quickly slipping away. If you look at the maps of where Russia has built all of its military bases on the northern part of Russia, in the Arctic part of Russia, all of the ice is going away. So the transit times to go around the corner down the bottom of the Asian continent down towards China are reduced considerably, because previously they couldn't transit through there because of all the ice, but the ice is going away and the ships can now drive through there. And that's part of the reason that the Americans want to go to Greenland and maintain that, to stop we need a way to have a blockade. We need a way to stop them doing all of these things, because we want to maintain the hegemonic power that we are. And the reason that the Americans are the number one in the military is because of the Navy. The Navy is the thing that stops everything, because I can just park an entire air force off the coast here and I'll just bomb you until you capitulate.
Yeah. Well, either way, it would not take very much to improve the lifestyle of your average Greenlander, right? And so I think it'd be a very cost-effective way of extending our military base, in that part of the world. So I think Greenlanders, look, they might say, you know what, they might give an FU to Denmark, and if they do start making noise, the people in Denmark can say, you know what, there's not a whole lot we can do to stop them, so we may as well get something out of this, and we'll jump in. So I think that a clever negotiator could find a way. Maybe not taking over. It's not going to be a 51st state, like Canada is going to be. It's going to be, it'll just be a really nice ally to have for us. Really nice.
What an exciting time to be alive!
Yeah.
All of this craziness going on, huh?
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought that this is where this would start?
Yeah, the first Canada, the 51st state. That would be so cool. I mean, it's not going to
You think
happen.
he's going to employ the tariffs on the Canadians?
Oh yeah. Well, if they don't play a game, if they don't play along, listen. One thing to keep in mind is that if you put yourself in Trump's shoes, right now for him it's all about legacy. He's not going to run for re-election. This is it for him. He's got 4 years. He wants to make his mark on history. right? So I think, and the way he won was with such a mandate. Because remember last time in our last podcast, we talked about the potential for absolute chaos from this election, given what the Democrats, they have no shame of what to do. So but that turned out not happening because he won in such a decisive way that it'd be way too difficult for them to rig this election. So he won with a mandate. So I think, he's sitting here saying, I've got the people on my side, and so I've got a lot of political capital to get things done. And he wants to do that as early on as possible, by the way, while he has that political capital, right? And so he can afford to make a mistake here and there. So I think he is emboldened because he's looking at his legacy. He wants to go down in history, making big differences, and that's why everything he's doing is big, it's huge, right? And for him it's about legacy. So he feels like he has the people behind him, and so he's being emboldened. So the idea of Florida, yeah, Canada, 51st state. Now he knows that's not going to happen, but that's what he does, right? He puts out an absurd statement, and then he works back from there, and then he settles for something bigger. And I think that's a classic, a Midtown Manhattan real estate developer mindset. We'll start lowballing or we'll start highballing, and then work back to the number that we actually
Well, I was heartened yesterday when I watched his speech in that he gave to the evil, demonic, horrible human beings in Davos. I saw him eliminate that once and for all. DEI is over. There's only two genders. Your one world government is complete and total and absolute nonsense. Your Green New Deal, that's been relinquished and sent to the dustbin of history. You people are a bunch of fools. You better get on board or you're going to be completely destroyed. And he didn't mince words and he didn't hold back. And I felt like they were the death blows to all of this leftist stupid ideology, this communist ideology this eugenics cult that they're trying to get rid of all the people on planet Earth by threatening pandemics and injections and killing people and just truly, truly evil people. They were the death blows to them, and you could see them like quaking in their seats. They were worried about all of that, and I thought, good.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's not a bully, but he is the leader of the world, and he does wield his power, and the president has absolute power over those things, and he put anyone that was in a DEI role in the American government, off you go. You're on leave. Get out.
Yep.
Yeah. Wave anything but the American flag. You're out. Get out. Only the American flag. Only this. Only that. And it's just, it seems like, oh my God, finally. But that's actually how it was. And that's actually how the world is. And all of a sudden, we had these crazy, evil, demonic people that think there should be only 500 million people in the world and trying to get rid of everybody, but in the process, they're going to get rid of themselves. That's why they're so stupid. That's what they don't understand. And that's over. I think it's gone. We just have to be careful of what it actually is, I think, and celebrating that, because it could be a Pyrrhic victory. Remember the terminology from your history studies. A Pyrrhic victory is when you win, but 30 years later, the enemy come back and retake the ground. It seems good for a short period of time, and it seems like it's going to last forever, but they're in the background regrouping and reorganizing, and they're going to come back at you as well. For all the nonsense that's been destroyed by his speech and his rhetorics and everything that he's actually doing, BlackRock still hold all the money.
Yep.
So I'm wondering, what are they going to do next? What is their reaction to all of that? Because, when you corner a vicious animal, that animal will fight for its life. And hopefully most of these people just capitulate, which just seems what has actually happened. But it could be that they lash out, and they could lash out in a number of different ways, because if I can't have it, nobody can have it. And remember, I've told this story before, and I've shared this with you before. The whole reason when I first joined the army, the whole reason that I went to East Timor, and the whole reason the Australian government went there, was because the Timorese were invaded in 1975, and the Indonesian government in 1999 said, do you want to have a vote? Do you want to be independent from Indonesia? And the Timorese said, yes, of course we do. They voted for it. And then on the way out the door, the communist authoritarian military not the government, because the government allowed it to happen, but the communist authoritarian military said, well, if we can't stay here and we can't have it, fuck you, we're going to burn the place down. And they killed everybody and burnt the place down. The Australian government went, hey, that's just like 50 miles away. Fucking get the army in there. Go and stop that shit, will you? And that's the reason we went over there. That was a true peacekeeping mission, right? That wasn't a conflict or a war. It was just like, stop it. Then I remember getting to Dili, and Dili was on fire because the Indonesian army had burnt it down. And all the militia had burnt it down because those people were Indonesians, and they're like, well, if we can't have it, nobody can have it. We're going to destroy it and kill everybody on the way out the door. So if you think it can't happen, it happened in my lifetime. I lived through that. And we're facing a greater threat than ever before from these leftist idiots who've got all the money and hope they don't have their hand on the nuclear, their finger on the nuclear button anymore, which is a kind of a good thing. But they still have the ability to cause a lot of chaos, and hopefully they don't lash out in the end here in their death throes, because if we can't have it, nobody can have it. I'm worried about that. But I'm also very optimistic that they won't do that, and they'll just get on board and say, okay, well, we didn't win. And they even admitted that. They even said that at Davos. He won, we lost. It's over.
Yeah, well, listen to the way they said it, right? Like I said, we lost. We lost. Yes, their agenda lost. Well, I'm sure that they are scheming in the back rooms when all the cell phones are turned off. They're scheming, man. They're coming up with a plan. They're finding a way to make, lemonade out of lemons. They're finding a way. Well, how can we take advantage of this? And how many times in the past 4 years, well, really 2 years, you and I have said that this war in Ukraine is not about borders. It's not about democracy. It's about money.
Did you see the guy? Did you see the guys from Rebel News approach Larry Fink in Davos?
I did see that.
Yeah, and they're asking, for the people that are watching and listening to this, that Larry Fink, the boss of BlackRock, they were asking him a question. What don't you benefit from both sides of this Ukraine war? You're funding all of the military-industrial complex, but to destroy the place. But then you're going to fund all the businesses that are going to go back in there and rebuild it. War is good for your business. Why are you doing this? Why don't you come out and say that there shouldn't be a war? Why are you stopping this? Why are you promoting this? And he was completely silent to about 50 questions that both those guys, Ezra and Avi, had asked him. And yeah, it just shows the arrogance of these they're truly evil people. I never believed that there was true and evil in the world until Dr. Fauci came on the screen. And I read the RFK book, The Real Anthony Fauci. Good and evil is a biblical concept in my mind. And I think, yeah, there's bad people. Yeah, the guy who ran Germany in World War II, he was a bad dude. But I never really thought of it as evil, because and I'm not a religious person, and I don't read those texts, so it doesn't feel real to me. But Anthony Fauci is a truly evil person, and Larry Fink is truly, truly evil. They really believe in eugenics. They really believe that the world's population should be 500 million people, and that 7.5 billion should go away. And we should all go away like now. It's a post-human world. It's an AI-driven what? And I started at the top of this show by saying, 500 billion into AI. That's kind of in line with what all of these leftist freaks are wanting for us.
Yes.
But I also think the American government's involved with that because it's a weapon system, not because of the leftist stuff. And I'm hoping that it is because it's a weapon system, because that would eliminate all that other stuff that we're talking about.
Well, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be.
It can be both, can't it?
It can be both. And I think this advancement in artificial intelligence is a bad thing. I want your take on this too. I think in that it's a bad thing because it's going to get out of control, and there are going to be a lot of unintended consequences that we don't know about, and none of them are good. Any unintended consequence that you can game out is going to be bad. Namely, remember when McAfee was giving his press conference about this $500 billion infusion in the AI project? He said, well, yeah, we can come up with a vaccine that will cure cancer on an individualized basis. We can design your own mRNA vaccine. I was like, oh, fuck, here we go
It's
again.
complete nonsense. When you listen to Robert Malone and what he says about that, it's all garbage.
Yeah,
None of it is true. They've had those ideas forever, and no one's ever been able to execute on it. And AI
yeah,
is not going to be able to
yeah,
help you to do
but
that.
yeah, but that's the
Rubbish.
sugar. That's the sugar that they're going to force
Yes.
down. That's how they get you to think it's a good idea.
Yep.
That's how they get you to swallow the bad medicine. And of course,
Remember
during
the remember the movie I Am Legend
yep,
with Will Smith?
yep,
Yeah. That movie starts out, she's on TV and the journalist said, "So you cured cancer?" She's like, "Yeah, I guess we did." And everybody that got jabbed turned into a face-eating zombie.
yeah,
That's actually what will happen. It's not
yeah.
a far parody from reality.
Well, listen, they had a very successful test case a couple of years ago, right? Where they were able to convince 80% of the population to take that jab, take that poison, and again, we talked about that topic to death in the previous videos, but in effect, the WEF and their ilk, they probably cannot believe the success. I cannot believe they fell for it. I cannot believe.
Psychological warfare,
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah, it's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So they have proven they know that they can do it. They know that it can work. So they've got their roadmap. They know how to get it done. Now, the degree to which people might say, "Yeah, well, you know what? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on that whatever is the jury's still out about whether or not the public is going to say, no, fool me once, man. That's it. I'm not going to go for it again, or whether they are in the heart of hearts really sheep. I think most people are sheep. Most people they go to work every day. Okay, so uh, the the cost of a brand new car in 1960 was $3,600. The cost of an average house was $54,000 in 1960. Well, people and people now that's because our government over the course of time through inflation and through their money printing policy, they've destroyed our standard of living. They just destroyed it. If you're a young person today and you want to buy your first house, I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they can do it. And it's all the government's fault. And you got to wonder, those people kept getting reelected, reelected, reelected. And of course, you got the Federal Reserve, who are unelected and unaccountable. And so you have powers to be. So, but we haven't seen a revolution. We haven't people are not up in arms. People just quietly, bend over and take it. And you have to wonder, where are people's actual outpoints? Now, to a large degree, it's just pure ignorance. People aren't taught, basic finances in school these days. The stuff they're
That that's
teaching.
e- that's exactly where it comes from. Is that nobody in the school system is educated to teach you these things, because a school teacher is somebody who went to school, went to a university, and went back to school. They know nothing about basic economics. They know nothing about inflation, because if they really did, and I'm not saying that all of them don't know, but the majority of them don't know, and the curriculum and the guardrails which they have to operate, that limits their ability to communicate everything that you just said. Because if they communicated everything that you just said to a 13-year-old child, this is how the government works, this is how the world works, this is how basic economics works. Inflation is the worst hidden tax ever created by human beings, and it hurts the poorest people in society, and it benefits the richest people in society. If you really truly understood that, the minute that they started printing money, the entire population would say, stop it, stop it, stop it, cut it out. Because what you're going to do is cause inflation and hurt all of those poor people. And you're going to make those rich people even richer when you're doing that. So stop it. Don't do that. That's the worst possible thing that you could do. And in my mind, it just comes back to the school system. It's all related
Yep.
to the school system, and it's failed. It's completely failed. And the people within the school system are usually leftists that think men can be women and women can be men. But that shit's all over. So hopefully all of this DEI nonsense that you've got rid of in America flows over here to Australia. We still, all of the stuff that Trump's been doing in the last couple of days. I got off X because it's just such a toxic, evil place, because what it shows me is how stupid these leftists actually are. And we have these leftist politicians that I sometimes I see on my Instagram. I just see it in my feed sometimes. I don't look at X. I don't go over there because I don't want to see all that leftist shit. It's like horrible. And one politician here in Australia, Zali Steggall, saying, "Oh, there are more than two genders. I will protect you. I will do this." And I'm like, she's like this greenie but she drives around in a fancy car and lives in the most expensive part of Sydney. It's like if you really believed what you were talking about, you'd fucking walk to Canberra to go and sit in Parliament in thatch shoes and hemp fucking dresses. But you don't. You walk around in fucking fancy clothes because you
Well,
get paid 300,000 a year by the Australian government. And you fly business class down to Canberra like 10 times a fucking month. It's ridiculous. Like, they're such hypocrites, man.
oh yeah,
They're so full of shit. And this is all because of the school system. That's where it comes from.
yep.
Because the
That's
school system and the people that design the curriculum and the people in the education department just want drones. They want drones to work in factories, but there's no energy for them to work into factories. So they sit around all day pontificating that men can be women. They're fucking strange, man. Strange people. Strange people. We have, let me just close that thought, Ed. Here we are on the 25th of January. Tomorrow is Australia Day. It's like our 4th of July that you have there in America. It's a huge celebration of Australian culture, beaches, barbecues, mates, beers, fireworks, just celebrating Australian culture. But every year we have these fucking idiots on the left from the Labor Party saying we should cancel Australia Day, we should do this, we should do that. And I just think to myself, just leave. Just fucking leave. Leave already. Go and live in Botswana. Fuck off and live in Zimbabwe. Go, get out of here. If you don't like it, leave. If you haven't got nothing nice to say about the place, shut the hell up. If you can't sing both verses of the national anthem, you're not really Australian. Leave. It's time for you to go. And I'm not like some white supremacist populist that should be here. But if you haven't got nothing nice to say, shut up. Because you get to go on our trains. Our rail system is fucking incredible. You get to use our bus. Seen the bus systems? There's a bus that goes past my front door here it seems like every 10 minutes. If you want to get anywhere in this amazing city that I live in, all the infrastructure is here, but then you say, oh, Australia's shit. Australia's terrible. Australia Day should be cancelled. Well, get the fuck out of here. It's like, I don't understand these hypocrites, man. It's just, and what it comes down to is they just were never taught at school.
yeah.
Their parents never taught them. And if you talk to immigrants that come to this country, they're like, wow, man, this place is fucking amazing. Fuck, wow, I can't believe it. Australia's the best place in the world. But the idiots that are here, that have been here for generations, are like, oh, Australia's terrible. We murdered all the Aboriginals and we've got a dark history and we should say sorry for that. And I should acknowledge a welcome to country every 20 seconds. Like, fucking stop welcoming me to my own country. I was born here. I'm just as Aboriginal as they are. What? It doesn't make any sense. If I look up the definition of it, and these white people claiming to be Aboriginal because 85 generations ago, someone was Aboriginal in their family. I'm like, what? Actually, if you look at my DNA and my genetics, I'm probably African because that's where most of humanity came from. Like, this bullshit nonsense that we have, man. Like, I've actually tried to insulate myself a little bit from it. I've been watching the spectacle of American politics with glee because I'm so far from it and I'm completely detached from it. But Australian politics and Australian politicians, they're the fucking worst in the world, man. They're almost as bad as the British ones. I can't look at that Keir Starmer guy, all the grooming gangs and the gang rape of fucking children and the police saying that, oh, that was just a lifestyle choice that they made. But she's 14, bro. Oh, well, that was the lifestyle that she chose. But she's 14. She's 13. She's 9. Like, and Keir Starmer was like the boss of like the judicial system, like the Attorney General, the version of that type thing and I'm like, really? These are the people that are in charge? This is what's real. I got to turn it off, man. I can't see it.
Well, okay. Well, okay. This is where, okay, man, in a democracy, you get what you pay for, man. So I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for the people in the UK. I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for the people in Germany or France. I don't have a whole lot of sympathy.
Really? Well, but in the UK, he only won 13% of the vote. It's the coalitions that they pulled together.
Okay,
it's the same here in Australia.
You beat me to it. You beat me to it. I mean, you people up there with your 35, political parties,
well, you've really only got one.
Yeah, right. But again, in theory, okay. So what do you do? So, well, I can't win because they're corrupt. They get coalitions together and they find a way to put the corrupt guy in power, regardless of how we vote. Well, hey man, we here in America, there's a fucking reason why we have the Second Amendment. There's a reason why we want to keep our
Yeah.
guns.
They were really smart when they wrote that, weren't they?
Yep.
They really understood what unchecked power actually was, and you have the ability to rise up against the government that's not behaving in your interests. I wonder, Donald Trump signing his way out of the Green New Deal and throwing all that out and then saying he's going to drill in Alaska. It's bigger than Saudi Arabia. There's enough coal, oil, and natural gas in the ground in the United States to give to the world for hundreds of years. Well, by the way, we have that here in Australia as well. And you're just completely and absolutely destroying this economy with windmills. What the fuck is wrong with these people, man?
Look, okay, so you got to ask: are they stupid, or do they just have an agenda? I mean, we ask about failure. I mean, if you look at the U.S. border, for example, for the past 4 years, a fair-minded person would say it's been a disaster. Well, hold on. It hasn't been a disaster. It depends
It's
on
an absolute success in their
right.
mind.
That's right. Exactly. So it depends on what your agenda is and what your point of view is. America has a $36 trillion deficit right now. So and our standard of living has been destroyed. The value of our U.S. currency has been destroyed. It's worth 1% of the buying power is 1% of what it was in 1913. So it's been absolutely destroyed. But if you're a part owner of the Federal Reserve, it's been a massive success, right? If you're if you're a member of the WEF, and you've seen that a war break out in Ukraine, you're popping champagne corks.
Insane, hey? It's just insane how they're profiting off other people's misery. It's like it shows you how evil they actually are, because all they care about is money. And all they care about is power and finance and control. And if you look very carefully and closely at those people, they're unhappy as hell, man. Well, when I look at all of these leftist, greeny fucking politicians in Australia, they are disgusting. They're ugly, they're fat, they're overweight, they dress like fucking paupers and homeless people, and to boot, they're stupid. They're dumb as a box of rocks. And they think that they're representing their constituents by behaving in the way that they are. But the vast majority, that your job as a politician is not to represent the people that elected you. Your job is to represent the people that didn't elect you, and then be a politician for all people and be the representative of all the people, not just half of the people, and polarizing everybody. And that's the problem that we have with the type of politics that we have in this world. I think if all the billions of dollars that the Australian government has wasted on these green projects, if they just kept digging holes in the ground, pulling the coal out, pulling the uranium out, pulling the gas out of the ground, and all of the assets and resources that we had, if you'd redirected it to all of that, man, we would be like Norway, what you said. Every time a new kid was born, there'd be $250,000 sitting in his retirement fund for him. Why we are, Australia is the richest country in the world. There's no doubt about it. And because we've got all the space, we've got all the resources, we've got everything that we actually need here, but we don't manufacture anything because electricity is too expensive. And they're trying to make it more expensive. They're trying to make it worse. They're trying to destroy our way of life and destroy our cost, our living. There's a few really polarizing and really sad reports going around. I'll find them for you. I'll send them across to you so we can put them in the links to this show. It's about how the government and these companies go around to these farms in country Australia, in these different places, and they say, let's put a windmill up here, let's do this, let's do that, and it's just devastating to the landscape. They are such eyesores. They are gigantic, man. They're not small. These things are massive,
and they don't fucking work.
They don't work. Yeah. When I was in Adelaide over Christmas, we went past them, and they're on top of these hills, and they're completely static. And you're like, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You think the sea breeze would be coming in and these things would be good. And it was a bit windy on the ground where we were, but the windmills are not moving at all. And you're going, whose idea was to put it there? If the wind's blowing, but it's not blowing up there, why not? And where you look at the shape of the land, and you're like, anyone with half a brain could see you'd never put it there. You put it in the other side in the valley, in the lee, where the wind's blowing down and it goes back up. Anyway, these documentaries that I've seen are just devastating to these families, because the companies that come onto the land and say to the people, we'll give you millions of dollars if we can put up the windmills in these places, and to do that. But in order to do that, you're never allowed to tell anybody what the deal is, how much it is. And if you break this NDA, all of it goes away and we'll seize your land. And so people are going, it's not like a collaborative approach. Somebody knocks on your door and says, I'll give you $5 million if I can build 3 windmills there. What would you say? Most people are saying yes, because the government's not there to help them or to rescue them. But in the process of that one single person saying yes, it destroys and decimates the entire community.
Yep.
And it gets everybody offside. And it is just heartbreaking to see the policies play out of the leftist evil ideology that is not only making Australians poorer because our energy bills are going up, but when you see it at ground level, at a granular level with how it affects these people, you think, man, I would do anything to help that lady. I would do anything to help that family. What can I do to help? Is you watch these things and you'll think, what can I do to help? How do I help these people? This is just total and absolute and total chaotic madness. And the Australian people voted for it. No, they didn't. They didn't vote for that. I promise you. Any Australian that saw that, I promise you that they didn't vote for that, because no Australian, no human on planet Earth, it doesn't matter where you're from, would want somebody to suffer like that. It's as if it's just horrendous how bad it is. I can't.
Yeah, but like you said, their stories will never be told, because
they are being told a little bit, actually.
Okay, eventually,
not being amplified.
Eventually, the truth always comes out, but it could be.
It does.
It could be way in the future, and in the meantime, untold damage, has been done. Look what's happened.
You always said that about Biden's government, and I'm like, what are you talking about, man? He can't do. What could he do in 4 years? I remember, and you're like, just wait and see.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
It didn't take long. I mean, right now, they are amazed at the boldness of Trump right now. From this day forward, it'll be the policy of the United States that there are only 2 genders. Okay, bam. Okay,
that's a death blow.
As of today, the border is closed, and we're going to start mass deportations. Bam. As of today, it's drill, baby, drill. Bam. I mean, really big pushbacks, right? But you have to wonder how much damage has been done in just the past 4 years. How long is it going to take before any serious improvement? I mean, how many illegal criminal aliens do we have in our country right now? How long? We saw a mad rush for the border leading up to Trump's inauguration, trying to get as many illegals in as possible in the very last minute. Biden, he's such a small man. In the final days of his administration, he was pushing out money to Ukraine and to his Green New in billions and billions of dollars, saying, spend it now, spend it now, spend it now. Right?
Insane, crazy, hey, just so crazy.
Right. So he left Trump with a big pile of dog shit in the Oval Office, to start out. So you got to wonder, so he's automatically at a deficit. Now, if the last 4 years hadn't happened, and he did these things, I think we see the effects much more easily than if we didn't have all these onerous, new developments take place just in the past 4 years. So you got to wonder, how long is it going to take to get the illegal alien crisis under control? How long is that going to take? I mean,
and how much money is it going to take?
And how much money is it going to take, to do that? So even though it feels good, it just feels, it's like walking around with a stone in your shoe all day long. At the end of the day, you take out, oh, finally, but you still have that hole in the bottom of your foot created by the, so the initial relief, there is a collective gasp going on in America right now. Oh, thank God. But we still have a lot. Now it just starts. Go ahead. We should enjoy it. We should enjoy this victory, but let's just hope that it's not a Pyrrhic victory, like you said. Let's hope this actually turns into something, and that he ends his presidency with momentum. The real time frame is not 4 years; it's 2 years. We have to, up until our midterm elections. Let's hope that he gets enough positivity going and enough momentum going that he ends up with a huge mandate in both the House and the Senate, where he's unstoppable for the following 2 years. So time is not his friend right now. He's got to get as much done as possible, and he's got to do a good job communicating those successes and why they're successes. If I were in Trump's ear right now, I'd be saying to him, you know what, Mr. I think what you should do is start put together a series of public debates on key topics, and you host it. You are the moderator, and you invite in topic by topic. Let's start with the Green New Deal. Let's start with climate change. And we're going to bring in 5 experts who know the science. They got their arguments down. There you go. Bring in the 5 experts on your side and 5 on the other side, and let's have a public debate. They each get up. They each get their 5 minutes. Have an actual debate, because I know because of his bully pulpit that will get publicity, and the people will see how bad the argument is on the other side. They will lose because their arguments are so bad. The science is so bad. Climate change is a hoax. It will be.
If you just read like the first 20 pages of this book, you'll see how fake it actually is, and it's propaganda is the correct way to describe it. One thing I couldn't help think of as you were saying all of that stuff there, Ed, was when you see the president sits down and he signs these executive orders. Every president, from Donald Trump to everyone before him, has always sat down and signed executive orders before they begin their workday on the first day of inauguration. And one thing that I looked at was there's no possible way one person could be across all of those issues. So he's got this gigantic team of people that are behind him, these experts, and they're aligned to his way of thinking. Mm-hmm. And that's the deep state that had previously sabotaged him. So someone would bring something to him about climate change, about the Panama Canal, about Greenland or some shit like that. And previously he would say, well, I don't know, I'm not an expert in that. You tell me what you think. And that those deep state operatives would do everything to sabotage him and were doing everything to be opposite to what his views would actually be if you spent some time with him to ask him about that. And he signed hundreds of these executive orders. And I was scratching my head going, has he made a mistake in some of these? And then when he made that AI announcement the other day, I was like, maybe that should have been under the table because it's weapons. And maybe you shouldn't be telegraphing to the Russians and the Chinese that we're building these AI systems to destroy you and we're going to win, so don't even think about it. Like, it's a form of deterrence that's going on there. But there's no possible way that Trump could be across all of those executive orders and all of the information related to that. He's just like, that Green New Deal is a scam. Get rid of it. Somebody write up. Those January 6th, that was a scam as well. Somebody write it up. Let me sign it. Get him out of jail. All of his stuff, right? That's happening. So I think there might be some mistakes in there. Hopefully he's got the right team around him, and hopefully he's not signing off on things that the leave behind deep state assets are writing into these things saying they boys can be girls. We can mutilate them. We can do that. I'm not saying that that's what people are doing, but that's what they had done the first time round. That's how they sabotaged him. Yeah. And that's how they stopped it from happening. And literally the day that he became president, they tried to impeach him. They said, he's a Russian asset. And that was all the fake bullshit. But we haven't seen any of that nonsense this time round because none of those leave behind assets are in place. They're all out the door. And notice how nobody's going after him, and notice how nobody's actually saying he's for Russia. He's this. There's no fake propaganda bullshit creating the optics and the illusion that he is actually not for America. Everybody knows that he's an American first politician. I saw today that I haven't looked at the news this morning, but he was going to go to California. And he's going to highlight exactly how Gavin Newsom has caused these fires and how all of that had happened. I was, when that was going on, I said to my missus, isn't it strange how there's bushfires and wildfires all over the world? That's everywhere. That happens everywhere. They have that really badly in Portugal and in Spain and in Greece, in those Mediterranean countries. And man, oh man, we have some pretty full-on fires here. Like in Australia, where I am, in Sydney, where I am as well. Like, it's like a really serious thing. But never anywhere else in the world has anything like Maui in Hawaii happened, where an entire community has been destroyed, or in the Palisades, where the entire community has been destroyed. That's never, ever happened. I can't think of a time. It's like something from history where I think of the 1887 Chicago fire or whatever that happened when the entire city was built out of wooden structures, right? Because they didn't have concrete like we do now. And the whole city burnt down. Or, you hear about these historical events that happened 200 years ago or something like that. But these events that happened in Hawaii and what happened in LA, that was all 100% deliberate, man.
Oh,
That was all deliberate. And he's going to go there today and he's going to highlight, look, that it came out. I watched the interview with Tucker and Michael Schellenberger. Michael Schellenberger is going around talking to all the firefighters, and there's a level of wind. When the wind gets above a certain thing, they're supposed to deploy the assets and pre-position them in the event that something goes wrong. They've got very few assets considering the size and the scope of the place, but they're supposed to pre-deploy. Instead of pre-deploying the firefighting assets, the boss goes to everybody, go home. What? But that's not our protocols. Not to go home. Our protocol is to get our shit, get in the truck and go and pre-deploy in case something happens. So we're there on the spot. And then how come the firefighting aircraft aren't allowed to come in and to do that because the president's plane is there? Fucking so what? Fucking launch the aircraft and get them going. Like, it's all bullshit, man. It's all fucking 100% deliberate. Show me, point to a place in the world where something like that has happened. You can't, because it hasn't. That the sheer levels of incompetence are not incompetence at all. It's a 100% deliberate destruction of that society. It's just absolute tragedy, man. So sad.
Well, the good news about the LA fires is we can all feel better that there is an army of lesbians there to run the fire department, and because we all know that's priority one in running a good fire department.
They're like our politicians, our green politicians here in Australia. Well, if my husband was down in smoke inhalation, could you get him out of the house? Well, he shouldn't have been there. But he was asleep when the fire started. Can't you go and rescue him? I can't pick him up. I can't pick up a 100-kilo man. What? Like, man, these people are like, they think we're stupid. We're not stupid. You're a fucking moron.
Did you hear the story about Oregon sending a fleet of fire trucks to LA? Okay, so Oregon sent
no.
So to assist in fires, Oregon and Washington State, they sent out a fleet of special fire trucks that could hold a bunch of water, to disperse the water. And
in the trucks,
in the trucks. So they go down to the LA and they said, well, you can't deploy these the fire trucks until they pass an emissions test. So they're holding.
But the place is burning down.
Yeah, the place is burning down, but they want to make sure.
What about those emissions? Turn it off.
Forget the emissions being caused by the fire itself. They're worried about the emissions coming out of the fire trucks. These are the people. These are the people. You Californians, where the fuck is your ouch point? Again, when is this it? Is this going to be the event that's going to turn California, red? Could this happen?
I hope so. Yeah.
I don't know. An awful lot of California did go red in the last election, but they've been importing so many illegals and giving into California and giving them all.
It's illegal for you to ask where you're from and to ask for ID when they come and vote.
Exactly.
So all those people just went and voted like that because they probably got paid to actually do it as well. I wonder about the reaction to what happened from Gavin Newsom and the way that he reacted after it was happening and while it was happening was very telling. I remember in 2020, just before the fakest thing, the giant psychological warfare that had been employed against the whole world and 99% of Australia fell for, I remember there was gigantic bushfires we had here in Australia, and ScoMo was on holidays in Hawaii. Hey, boss, the fucking country's burning down. And he's like, well, what do you want me to do about it, man? Like, fucking go fight the fires. And then he comes back to Australia and someone says, you're finally back here. And his response was, well, I don't hold a hose, mate. But his response was a little bit like funny, but he's not wrong. I don't hold a hose. But within a month, he had spent $20 million to create the biggest aerial firefighting fleet in the world. And that firefighting fleet is here right now. And every now and then you see these aircraft flying around and stuff, and they are everywhere, and there's no bushfires. And so his reaction was, this was an anomalous event. We live with bushfire here in Australia. This was a really bad one. This was really big. And I'm going to do everything that I can as the Prime Minister and use all the federal resources that are needed to get every single asset that we can to stop this from happening ever again. So his reaction to it was, fuck, that was really bad. Let's stop that from happening. And the government's half-hearted, feckless attempt at trying to solve the problem and help people rebuild and do all that sort of stuff, their intention was there. Their execution is just really terrible, but their intention is there. Like Gavin Newsom's response to that is not, oh, we need to go and spend $100 million to be in a bigger firefighting fleet and get more trucks and to make sure the reservoirs are full. His reaction is not that at all. His reaction is, if you don't rebuild your house within 2 years, the government can come and seize your property.
Oh, yeah.
And
but
all sorts of like evil, nefarious legislation there. And people are like, we lived here for 100 years. That was my grandfather's house, and we can't. How the fuck are we going to do that? You know, it's too expensive. And where are the builders? You can't take away the rubble. Blah, blah, blah. It's deliberate, man. Deliberate way for the government to seize it.
Yeah, did you see the interview of Wildfire that was still going on day 2, where Gavin Newsom was almost gleeful about his plans for LA 2.0? You know,
evil, truly evil.
You know, and people, like, to your point, there are a lot of people that's a very wealthy, very expensive area, but a lot of people they live in generational houses. They've been there. So the only way they can afford it is because the house has been in the family, for generations. But they can't afford to rebuild. They can't afford the replacement value. Insurance companies have gone.
They won't pay. Yeah,
they won't pay. Well, we literally weeks before, like 30,000 insurance policies were discontinued by Allstate.
You said that. I remember when the fires were going on. I messaged you and I said, "Look, Ed the prophet has come to pass again." You said all of those insurance policies were going to go away. Systematically, there's a mass exodus there, or they stay there because they've got no choice. They can't afford to move. Their house is burned down. Now they're completely homeless. Like, what? It's just so tragic because it's all deliberate. And you can't obfuscate the truth. You can't hide it because you've got these fat DEI dickheads in charge who, women who think that they're men, that think that they can do that job. They can barely understand what the mission statement is of the LA Fire Department, never mind manage the thousands of people and the millions of dollars worth of assets and resources that are there. They're the most incompetent people in all of California, and they allowed it to happen, and they take no responsibility for it. Immediately, the people that are in charge of the fire department all should be gone. The entire management structure should be decimated and gone. You're gone. Get out. You're all fired. All of you are all fired. None of this should ever have happened on your watch. And when you look, if you just scratch the surface of a journalist going around asking half a dozen people, you can see that it's just based on incompetence. But the incompetence is based on they're just the puppets, right? The incompetence is based on the entire plan of, let's drain the reservoirs. There's no water pressure. There's no anything. Let's not cut back the brushes. All the same shit happened in Hawaii, by the way. Also a democratic state. Also the same types of idiots in charge. But what was worse in Hawaii was the police blocked the roads. By the way, where are those 2,000 kids that all died, man?
I haven't heard anything about it. Have you?
Where did they go? Like, what? How come that's just gone from our consciousness? As if that never happened. Where are all those children? Remember, because they got sent home from school because it was really bad, and then they all fucking burnt to death in their houses. Where are they all?
Yeah.
No, nobody can tell me. Not one media outlet is telling you. No alternative media are going there to figure it out because it's fucking blocked off. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't get in there. You can't go and talk to anybody, and anybody that was there was either killed or has had to move away because their houses are gone. Like, really? It's like unbelievable, man, how bad it is.
Well, maybe look, I still don't think, even with the advent of Donald Trump in office and with Elon Musk taking over X, even with those developments, I still don't think we live in a truly free speech society. That's why
no, absolutely not.
That's why I've avoided saying certain things in this video, because I'm going to be, I'll be shut down because of it. So we still do not live in a free speech society, and because of that, a lot of things, I think, like hiding the fact that these 2,000 kids have gone missing, no one talks anymore about that $700 check that the residents of Maui got, and the $700 checks that the people of LA, $700. Meanwhile, we just sent another $30 billion to Ukraine.
You can rebuild everybody's bloody house.
Yeah, it's amazing you, how many problems common sense solves. And Donald Trump's making a big point about how this is going to be a common sense era now. This is going to be a common sense, and common sense solves an awful lot of problems. The common sense that I gotta sneak this in. These windmills. It's common sense. They don't work. Do you know how much diesel it takes to put up and maintain one of those things are 300 feet tall, and it takes a third of an acre of concrete that goes 10 feet into the ground just to put up one of those things. And then you have to, and the amount of petroleum that goes into making the blades for the things, and those blades are not recyclable. So when they're thrown in landfills, they're there forever. They will not biodegrade. You cannot reuse them for anything.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of those Chinese ghost cities where these property developing Ponzi schemes in China build these gigantic high rises that are 50
cities.
stories high, and they're completely empty and they're not,
Yep.
and there's like entire cities of it because they get the money to invest. They have to actually build something, and these people think that they have assets, but nobody's ever going to move there because it's in the middle of nowhere. And there's no infrastructure to support the people that are there. There's heaps of people that ride around their motorbikes to go and see all
Yeah.
these places. It's
Yeah.
really super interesting.
I've seen those videos
That's
too.
that's yeah, that's the same thing as like building solar farms and building windmills. It's the same thing. It's like building a gigantic ghost city. You're
It's
taking
a
billions of people's dollars and building it for nothing, literally. And eventually they knock them down
Yep.
because they get paid money to knock them down
Yep.
as well. It's like crazy.
These are transfer of wealth operations, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the way
That's
to
what it's about.
describe it.
And
Yeah.
speaking of transfer of wealth, have you heard Trump's really cool plan for eliminating our $36 trillion deficit?
And we're just going to get everybody else to pay for it with tariffs
That's
and
part of
get
it.
rid of the tax system.
That's part of it. But he wants to establish this crypto reserve, right? For Bitcoin, and now it looks like he's also going to include XRP and maybe a couple other, in the reserve, which be about to. So if that were to happen, that's going to send a trend around the world. Every other country in the world, they're going to have to create their own Bitcoin reserves. So
Mm.
Bitcoin, who knows how valuable those things could become. So his plan is okay. So we'll buy X number. We'll buy several $billion with the Bitcoin, and in 5 years they'll be worth $15 trillion. We'll pay off our debt.
Yeah, that'll pay
So
off the debt. Yeah.
or half would be really good start, right? This guy has some really smart, genius level people advising him on an economic level about how to address a lot of these situations, and a lot of these plans are not. I mean, the idea of a crypto reserve 2 weeks ago would not happen because we had one guy, Gary Gensler, sitting in the seat,
Yes. Stopping it.
attacking.
Yeah.
Right, stop that one man. Was waging a war against crypto just by him being gone alone. That's after the election. That is why the crypto market had that huge rally since then, because of that one reason. Because Trump won, and the consequence of that was that one man, Gary Gensler, would be gone, and that's enough. So people don't need
It's the world's biggest pump and dump. He was the world's biggest holder of all sorts of crypto, I reckon. And he knew that. And he knew that the minute that Trump got in, it was going to go like that. He's probably like a multi-billionaire by now. You just don't know
Trump?
about it, right? No, Gary
Gary
Gensler.
Gensler. Yeah. And I'm waiting.
You don't know about it.
No. And I'm waiting to hear which banks he's going to end up sitting on the boards of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's all controlled by that. It's
That's
all
right.
bullshit.
He was there primarily to do BlackRock's bidding, and
Yes.
BlackRock up until this time last year hated Bitcoin. Well, now
Yes.
they see a way to make money on Bitcoin, so they have their own ETF, the largest ETF. So these guys talking about turning lemons into lemonade. These guys say, well, hey, look, There's a way for
I'm
us
just going
to
to go where the
beat you.
wind blows.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's what that is.
So they want to dominate Bitcoin now. They want to control the Bitcoin, and because they saw a way to become infinitely more wealthy by doing that. So
Yeah.
that's what it's about. By the way, everyone out there, don't buy any crypto ETFs. If you want to own
No,
Bitcoin, if you want to own
buy the
Bitcoin,
Bitcoin.
buy Bitcoin.
Exactly. It's not that
And
hard. Work it
yeah,
out.
yeah. And don't keep it on an exchange. Whenever you buy crypto, get it off a fucking exchange and put it into a
Get it
wallet
into your wallet.
somewhere.
Yeah,
So
dead
the
right.
yeah,
Dead
yeah.
right.
So the so I want to circle back to which topic with it. Ukraine for a quick second. Okay, so what I have my opinion about what's going to happen next. What do you think now that Trump is in and he wants to end the war? What do you think is going to happen next? Because before you get started, little breaking news for you guys out there. Uh, Zelensky, as of yesterday, is now asking for U.S. troops to be put on his front line after
Well, the
years.
reason,
After
the
years
reason,
of after years of promising that he wouldn't do it,
yeah.
no, we just want the money. We just want the the bullets. We'll do all the fighting. Now he's actually asking for actual personnel. I mean, the
Well,
gall
the
of this.
reason that he's give it some context as well, and in the little man's defense a little bit. The reason that he's saying that is the Europeans have been saying for a while, the French and the British have been saying, we'll put troops there. And Zelensky's like, all right, but they're never going to do it unless the Americans go with them. Because if the other side, if the Russians engage the NATO troops that are there, the peacekeeping forces that are there, then they realize they're going to get the full force of the American military
Oh,
against them.
goodbye. Yeah.
And even though the French and the Brits can look after themselves, I really doubt that they would deploy without the American support, logistics, and backing as well. So that's why he's saying we need American troops here as well as all the other ones as well.
Okay, so what do you think is going to come of this Ukraine war? What's next, do you think?
We can do it the easy way or the hard way, apparently, is what Mr. Trump says. And the hard way that he's suggesting is tariffs, and the hard way he's suggesting is more sanctions and everything that's associated with that on Russia and all of the allies that are associated with them. But that has been found to be complete nonsense. And it was nonsense to begin with anyway, because none of it was ever true, because the Europeans continued to buy gas, they continued to buy oil through the shadow fleets. The Indians were buying it off them. It was all a nonsense. We've been funding the Russians' war machine the entire time. It's nonsense to say that there were sanctions. Sure, you kicked them out of the SWIFT system. It just means that somebody can't tap their Visa card when they go to the shops. That's it. And really, how bad is that for the economy? Well, the Russians have got their own banks, and people just get another card and they tap that and they can access the rubles that way. Like, it just doesn't make any difference at all to the Russian economy. And if you look, their economy had surged a little bit. The ruble had crashed against it. But what difference does that make to everyday Russians when the ruble is lower against the US dollar? I couldn't care less if the Australian dollar was 50 cents to the US dollar. What difference does it make to me? Does it make things more expensive? Not really, not in my day-to-day life. Maybe fuel's a bit more expensive, but that much. The exchange rate, the currency exchange rate doesn't affect everyday people. It's not until you can exert some force on the population that it actually starts to bite in politics. And that's
Okay. Well,
that's where I think.
Putin has an insanely high popularity rating, in Russia. I mean, if you believe their polls, but there has been independent polling by independent where apparently he is still a very popular leader because of the way he sold, the how do you term it? The special military operation. The way he sold it, patriotism and nationalism. The way he sold it, and so he's pretty popular. He's a lot more popular than even Trump, right now. So in that regard, I think he feels emboldened that way. But I am going to I love it. Whenever you say Ed, you called it, man. I love that. So thank you for saying that earlier in the call. But I'm gonna revisit a prediction that I made last year, and that is that if Trump gets into office, that by the end of 2025, Vladimir the Putin and Zelensky will share the Nobel Peace Prize. Trump will not, Trump will not participate
You're right.
because they hate him so much. But
Yeah.
I think, but the reason why it's going to happen is because of Trump. Trump is going to call these guys. He's a deal maker. He's going to what he should be doing. Should be telling Zelensky, "I'm not giving you anything more." So which means you're going to be dead here in about 2 weeks. So I want
Apparently, all the weapons have stopped at the NATO bases because it all comes through the NATO bases, of course, and it's stopped there and nothing more is going across. So we're at that point, and if you cut them off, the Russian, and without a deal, without negotiating, the Russians are just going to roll them up really quickly because there's no people on the front, and if there's no weapon systems to fight back against the invading forces, then the Russians are going to come all the way up to the river, right up against Kyiv, and take all of that ground. That's what is going to happen before a deal goes ahead. If all of that comes to a halt, I can't really see where it's going to go. I think it feels like we're in a state of flux. The Russians are continuing to take the ground. There's no doubt about that. And the Ukrainians have run out of troops. If the reports are believed to be true, what I see when I look at my Telegram channel is the continuous destruction of Ukrainian forces and equipment. But I also see that times 3 or 4 on the Russian side. Ukrainians are fighting back and they're destroying the Russians just as badly, but there's just more of them. And they're continuing to roll up the Ukrainians and keep moving forward and keep taking the ground just because there's more Russians. I think Zelensky's in a pretty weak negotiating position. I think you're going to find that the ground that has been taken is going to be seized as Russian territory, and that will become a demilitarized zone.
Yeah. I agree.
There'll be some hard borders drawn. There'll be some walls that are erected. All sorts of kind of like the demarcation zone between North and South Korea. There's a big gap, and there's minefields and there's all sorts of shit that's going on there. So if anybody gets any ideas, either side, you're going to have to transit through all of that. We can see you coming. None of that's going to actually come to pass, So I think you're going to see the Russians take a whole bunch more ground before Putin will just put off meeting Trump as long as possible. Because if Trump has stopped the weapons, Putin's just going to take tactical advantage of that and seize more ground in the process. That's what I would do. Yeah, I can meet you, but not for another 2 months. Weapons have stopped for 2 months. Ukrainian frontline collapses. Thanks, I'll take it all.
Well, if you believe the reports, apparently Putin called Trump already, saying that he wants to meet him ASAP.
Well, hopefully that is true, and hopefully we can get a resolution to it. I really think we're. Look, sorry, go ahead.
I think a peace treaty will be signed by the end of February.
Oh, that soon, you think?
Yeah.
I hope you're right. The carnage has to stop. It's fucking pointless, man.
Yeah. That's the whole thing, right? It's pointless. Every day, this is an expensive war, not for Ukraine because we're footing the bill. For Russia, though they're footing their own bill. It's an expensive war for them. And as popular as Putin is, I know that I've heard reports that the public they're starting to get tired of this thing. They want it to be over. So I think I mean, what would be the benefit of? He doesn't want to take over Ukraine. I've said this all along. He has no interest in taking over Ukraine. He wants Ukraine to be a buffer between the NATO border and his. So by taking over Ukraine, if he did, he'd be right up against the NATO borders. So he wants.
Well,
he wants Ukraine.
I think I think he'll come all the way up to Kyiv.
Kyiv, yeah.
And then he's
okay.
taken.
Okay, so this is my bet. I think they'll give him Donetsk. They'll let him keep Crimea, and I think that's pretty much it. And whether that's just flat out, okay, it's your territory and we redraw the maps, that's it, or they make it a demilitarized zone and we put in UN peacekeepers, something like that. I don't think so, though. I think they'll just say, all right, it's yours, you take it over, because Donetsk, now Putin wanted Donetsk because it's a very large industrial area. That's where all the World War II tanks and stuff were built. So it's a very big industrial area. They got the ironworks and all the rest of it. Besides which, he got rid of the Nazis that were all that's where they lived.
When you look at the goals of it was denazification and it was to destroy the Ukrainian military. He succeeded. And now he's taken the ground, because if we stop funding them, stop giving them troops and special forces and ISR, the Russians will roll them up in like a couple of weeks. That'll be
And
the end of it.
and if I were Trump, I would not be looking to take credit. I'd be the guy behind the scenes. History will give him credit down the road. But for him, you say, look, you take the credit. You know, you get to the negotiating table and make it sound like it's your idea for the peace treaty. And you and Zelensky, you guys can share the Nobel Peace Prize. You guys step up. You guys, you act like the guy who took the high road. You do it, and then and Zelensky, he's just tells Zelensky, man, you're on your own, man. I'm not giving you another penny. So you're SOL. So you better make a deal with Putin, or he's going to roll you up. So that's
the biggest thing that you're exactly right. The biggest thing that I learned about all of this in the last couple of years, I thought I understood warfare from studying it my whole life and being part of it in a couple of different ways, in a couple of different, versions of it, I suppose. What I never really understood, that I understood in great granular detail now, is that your government fucking hates you. If there's ever a war, your government will sacrifice you like you're nothing. You're the most worthless thing that ever existed. And the Ukrainian government has sacrificed hundreds of thousands of men. The Russians have sacrificed a couple of million men and women, by the way, and trillions of dollars worth of treasure from both sides, our side and their side. And when it comes down to it, war, I can't remember who said it, but war is just an extension of politics by other means. And politics is the most ugly, horrible, disgusting thing that's ever existed in humanity. And politicians, in my mind, are the most disgusting, horrible humans that have ever existed, especially Australian politicians. They're disgusting. Australian politicians are the most disgusting people ever. Yep. Because we've spent billions of Australian dollars sending Ukrainian people to die in a war that has nothing to do with us. Nothing. There is no tenuous connection that you can make. You can't join any dots that they're Slavic brothers from another continent and they help populate it. You can't draw any dots to it. My grandparents were Ukrainian. So what? So what? Should I have gone to the front and fought? Well, according to the Australian government, no. We don't want Australians over there fighting. No. Even trained infantry soldiers like me. No, we don't want you over there fighting. No. And if I went over there, they go, no, what are you doing here, mate? No, we only take, no, you're too old. Go away. They'll tell me to be soft,
no,
right?
don't take anyone over there.
Well, they're desperate now, right?
Yeah. Okay. So
the point, let me just close that thought, Ed, because it's important and I want to get it off my chest because the Australian government is so stupid and these people are so stupid that they don't understand warfare. That they don't understand what it means to be standing on a front line when you're taking fire and there's artillery and there's mortars coming at you. And these idiots in the Australian government that are criticizing Israel in this Gaza conflict never, ever criticize Russia for carpet bombing cities. It is like hypocrisy of the highest level. They don't, the reason that Gaza is destroyed, and I think I could go back and remind everybody of a prediction that I said, that when the Israelis drive their tanks into Gaza and they cross that fence and go in there, it's going to be devastation on a scale that we've never seen, which is what turned out to be true. And people don't understand why. Why did they have to do that? They don't get it. And what it comes down to is this. Every lesson that we've learned in urban combat in Iraq and Afghanistan and every combat that we've had before, even in Vietnam, in the Battle of Hue City and all of that stuff, is if you send infantry soldiers into a building and there's enemy soldiers on the other side of that door, there's no possible way that you can fight through that position without taking losses. And the Israelis would go into these buildings, they would go to clear the buildings, they would take enemy fire, and the section commander would go, get out. Get out. Everybody get out, because I don't want to lose anybody. Yeah. And then get on the radio and he'd call in for fire. Yeah. And a 2,000-pound JDAM would come in there and destroy everybody in that building that was shooting back at them and everybody else that was in the building as well. And that same infantry platoon then moves up to the next building. Righto, section 1, you go side 2, side 3, side 4. And then we start, they get in there, somebody takes fire on the second floor, they all pull back out. They call in a JDAM. JDAM destroys the building, next one. They go up to the next building. We're going to clear this building, make sure there's no civilians in here. Everyone's out of harm's way. Same thing over and over and over again until the entire place is fucking flattened. And that whole thing is an extension of politics. The whole reason that Gaza was flattened and completely destroyed was because the Israeli Defense Force didn't want to lose infantry soldiers. And the way they stopped themselves from losing grunts on the ground was by blowing up these buildings one at a time. That's what it came down to. And Australian politicians don't support Israelis. They don't support the soldiers on the ground. They came out and openly condemned what they were doing in Israel.
Yeah.
Our foreign minister condemned it. But she doesn't understand that if Australian troops were there, I'd be calling in Super Hornet strikes. I'd be calling in F-35s in to drop 2,000-pound JDAMs on those buildings as well. Because if I'm moving up to a position and assaulting a position and I'm taking enemy 50 cal fire, or a tank is firing at me, or an artillery round is firing at me, straight away I'm going to go, everybody stop what you're doing. Let's call in the Air Force. That's why they're there. That's what combined arms is. And I'm going to send them off to their maker with a 2,000-pound bomb. But the Australian government doesn't recognise or even realise that's how warfare is fought. That's what we did in Afghanistan. That's what we did in Iraq. That's what we did in Vietnam. That's what happened in World War II. If you look at the footage of the battles in World War II, the cities are completely destroyed. Yeah. Why is that? Because the advancing armies moved up and the enemy were dug in. They were firing back. The advancing armies move up. They call in airstrikes. They fire artillery. Tanks go in there. Armour goes in there first. The infantry go in. The whole place is destroyed. What's the difference of what? But governments are so stupid, and the politicians in charge are so stupid because none of them have served. They don't understand that that's what warfare actually is. All they do is condemn and say, oh, you're killing babies. Yeah, we're killing babies. Absolutely we are. And we're killing lots of terrorists too because they're shooting back at us. You know how many people we lost? Not very many. Yeah, because we've got overwhelming force and overwhelming firepower. And that's what warfare is us having overwhelming force. It's not a fair fight. It's not an even fight. We're here to kill you and to destroy you and to make sure that you don't kill us. And we're going to use every asset that we've got to do that. And they won the war and they did that and they got condemned for it. What? Politicians fucking hate you. They hate you. They want you to go to the front and they don't want you to call in an airstrike. They're just giving the Ukrainians just enough. Here's some bullets. Here's a couple of artillery rounds. Just enough to hold them at bay. If they were really serious, they'd just put like fleets of Predator drones in, plink all the artillery rounds off the battlefield in the first 12 hours of the war, bring in the A-10s, destroy all the infantry positions, bring in the B-1s, destroy all the command and control positions, and then move the infantry up with helicopter support and tank support and combined arms assault. This thing could be over very, very quickly. The problem is it escalates into a nuclear level because the Russians have got no way to fight back against us. But if we were really serious, we could get rid of all of this bullshit and fucking beat the Russians pretty quickly. If they didn't have nuclear weapons, if we could seize control of their nuclear weapons with AI and with quantum computing and stop them from launching, we could end this war in literally a couple of days. That's what happened in the siege of Sarajevo. Sarajevo was surrounded by mountains and artillery firing down into that city for years. And one day, NATO went, right, that's enough. In one afternoon, it stopped. One afternoon. One single afternoon, the siege of Sarajevo was over. And that went on for a couple of years. Like, what? If we're serious about it, we could do that. But the whole thing, it goes to what you said. It's not war. It's not about like ground or land. It's a fucking giant money laundering operation. That's right. And the governments that are involved in it on both sides don't care about that. It's like, it's just fucking bullshit, man. That's the one big lesson that I've learned from all of this is that no matter what, your government doesn't want you to win. So Western governments don't want the Ukrainians to win because if they did, we would have won already and we would have stopped it already. Well, that's because they don't want us to win.
Well, that's because BlackRock doesn't want it to end.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's 1,000% correct. That's exactly the reason why. Yeah. That's it right there.
Okay, so one last question before I let you go, because I know I've taken up a lot of your time already. So have you gotten any word about your application, about your visa application to Moscow, your residency visa?
They're going to have me, even if I'm not a Russian speaker.
Oh, no. You can learn Russian. Anyone can learn Russian. How hard? I
was thinking about learning Farsi and heading over to Tehran.
Well, I hear the girls are cute. In Iran. Well, Rob, this has been spectacular. A lot of fun. Thanks, man, for taking time out. That's Sue's shadow I saw in the background. So say hi to Sue's for me.
It is,
You
yes.
there? There you are. Oh, there you are. Okay, you froze there. You froze when I said, was that Suze I saw in the background?
It
Okay.
was, yeah, yeah.
Okay, we'll say hi to Suze. Okay. Well, thanks, Rob. And listen, again, everyone out there, if you would like us to do live podcasts again, I'm going to need your help to talk Rob into it. So please give this video a like and put a comment section below. So Ed Anderson, live from Minnesota, and where it is a warm 3 degrees today, and Rob Russ in a very, what is it there today? Like, all right, Robbie, thanks a lot, man. I'll see you next time. Say hi to Suze.
See you, Ed. Bye,
Okay,
mate. Bye
bye.
now.